And I think these are the people that are probably making up a lot of those figures, you know, in terms of the majority of of people, say, who you know, who believe literally, or that the world was the world was created 6,000 years ago.
Well, you know, when it comes right down to it, I believe, my personal contention is that the amount of people who fit into that category is a lot smaller than it's out there, okay? I mean, I believe that if you go up to a Christian or a Jew or a Muslim and you say, okay, let's talk turkey here. You believe in God? Yes, I believe in God. You believe in Jesus? Yes, I believe in Jesus. Okay. Do you really believe in Adam and Eve and the talking snake and the Garden of Eden and that, just that part of this? Well, that's a metaphor. Okay, so that's a metaphor. If that's a metaphor, then Eve was not literally kicked out of the Garden of Eden, and so literally, original sin is just a metaphor. Oh, no. Well, yeah, I guess it is. So, I mean, what I'm saying is that a whole lot of people out there are calling themselves one thing when they're actually as secular as we are. They are atheists.
And I think they haven't thought it through.
They haven't thought it through.
It's like an emotional reaction, but they haven't really thought through what the implications of going along with it.
They don't care. It's not everybody's problem. Not everybody is as important to think this is as important as we do. There are a lot of issues that other people find very important that really don't bother me one way or another.
Right. Well,
for instance, giraffe milk.
Giraffe milk.
Yeah.
Right.
But my point
not a major disappointment to you.
No, it's not. No, it's not. I mean, to some it will be. Some will be. Oh my goodness, and not. But the point is, what I'm saying is that a lot of people say they're religious when they're not,
or just simply identify with it.
Or simply identify with it when they're not. They don't understand the harm that they're doing with their apathy. Yeah. They don't understand their apathy's impact.
And that's also true of atheists as well.
Oh yeah.
Because I know because I was like that myself. And before I joined the movement, I was like, oh God, well I'm an atheist, so what? What's the big deal?
Right. I don't want to join anything. It's like a religion.
With me, it wasn't even strong enough to say I don't want to join anything. It was like it wasn't until I got on the internet and I saw the amount of disinformation and the amount of willful ignorance. I couldn't believe it, and then I kind of got scared. When I fully understood the religious right and their power and the movement that was happening, because don't forget in the late '80s when you had all those scandals with Jimmy Swaggart and Jim Baker and all that, they were considered down for the count, and I said, well, that's fine, And then, of course, in the early '90s, it began to surge back again. And in fact, it never really stopped surging. It was just like a stumbling point.
Yep.
And when I began to realize the power of the religious right, I got really scared. So I got involved, and I was not involved. But I think the apathy that you're talking about happens to atheists too.
I think that's a very important point. That the whole thing for me was I've always been an atheist. I've been an atheist since I was 6. But really, I think you've hit the nail right on the head. It's not passion, it's fear. I fear what is going to happen to this country because of the religious right. That's what it is. When it comes right down to it, I fear it. Because I look and I see the other countries. What happens to those other countries if you look at the Middle East, if you just look at the Middle East, versus if you look at, you can also look at Ireland, where they don't allow divorce or abortion.
And they do now, actually.
They do?
I think they do.
And then you compare that to the more secular countries of Denmark and Sweden and Switzerland and even Germany, even where they have a church but nobody cares, even England where they have a church but nobody cares.
And France.
And France. The more civilized nations, I fear that we won't make it to that level if we don't take a stand. And that's why I am more passionate about this.
Right. So, that's why I got involved. I was...
Does that mean we have to... Let me ask you this then, okay? Does that mean we, as American atheists, need to peddle fear in order to gain membership? Do we have to... And are we peddling fear? Do we have to say, if we don't lose this country, if we don't vote in this country, we're going to lose the election, we're going to lose the Supreme Court. Is that the...
No, I think we have to peddle facts.
Okay.
That's because, I'm reading a book called Christian Fascism, and basically there's certain qualities about the whole fascistic point of view and pushing it, and one of them is peddling fear, but it's over exaggerating. Right, the fear of an afterlife. But
what we're talking about is, do we have to peddle? That's Tim Dix behind the camera. What I'm trying to figure out is, do we, as American atheists, have to peddle fear of what would happen if the wrong party wins the election and changes everything? Do we have to peddle fear and try and keep apathy away from people?
See, I think it's more important to peddle facts, because, for instance, in the Christian right, when they peddle fear, they're saying that atheists want to take away the rights of Christians, which of course is a lie.
Right, it's a lie.
And that's deliberately manufacturing fear. The whole justification for military action using 9/11 and saying that one country is a threat to us militarily or potentially militarily, when in fact it wasn't.
Right.
That's peddling fear without fact. But you peddle fact. You say, look, in this, as we do, we read articles about how one community is violating the separation of church and state. That's a fact. People should be alarmed at that, but that's not just fear for fear's sake, and that's not fear just to get people all. We're not peddling hysteria. In other words, it's fact. And there are other stories where the Supreme Court or some local court will rule in our favor, and we'll say that too. And as we have said before on many shows, that what we're selling basically in terms of legal rights, the separation of church and state, it's not really an atheist issue. We just happen to be the ones carrying that.
Yeah, and there are other organizations, that are not atheist organizations that support the separation of church and state. And what we need is the candidates who actually understand that the separation of church and state is not some sort of stumbling block. It is actually one of the pillars that makes America what it is. If we lose the separation of church and state, we become something other than America. We become a nation that is not free.
So to answer your question, no. I don't think we should be peddling fear. I think we should be peddling facts, and we should be emphasizing the need for concern, but not fear in the sense of hysteria, not fear in the sense of just of bigotry against people that have religion. Not you don't just one of the aspects of fascism is you demonize people, and you point them out, and you lie about them. But we don't have to lie. When there are plenty of incidences where people, religionists, have tried to take over the government or try to make the government act in their way, and we're not making this stuff up.
Right. And a good example of that is the faith-based initiative, which was the darling of President George W. Bush, that literally funnels billions of dollars into churches without oversight.
Right.
So the church says they want to do something to help the poor. The government literally says, okay, have money, go help the poor. Well, that's just great, except for what the church is doing is not overseen at all. They can use that money any way they want without threat. And if they proselytize to the people who need the money, or if they just rebuild their church with the money and call it charity.
And the state has no mandate to push religion or to take a position on God. If anything, it has more of a mandate to give this money to secular groups.
It does. It has the money to. I mean, I have no problem, and this is an interesting thing about faith-based initiatives. I have no problem with Catholic Charities. Okay,
Right.
Catholic Charities is a charity organization by the Catholic Church that accepts government money and performs charity work. They've always done that. Since before George Bush's time, they've done that. They don't discriminate on who they help, and they don't, and they use the money only for charity. That's great. What's the problem? Why was the faith-based initiative set up if that was the case?